Hey everyone, welcome back to another edition of Outdoor Hospitality Weekly. I'm Alex Burkett, joined as always by Matt Whittemore, and today we've got a fantastic special guest. Joining us today is Mychele Bisson. She is founder and CEO of Bison Peak Ventures. They've got a bunch of RV parks that they purchased pretty darn quickly. And I'll let Mychele get into a little bit about the timeline, the property she's purchased, and we want to talk with her today about how she's constructed this portfolio in really quick order. Mychele may be somebody most of you may recognize off of social media or other podcast appearances. She is, somebody who has a fantastic presence there. And Mychele, thank you again for joining us today.
Well, thank you for that intro. That was amazing. Thank you. I feel good.
Absolutely. You're somebody that I think a lot of people are starting to look up to for this. And so I think, this is a really great conversation today just to dive into a little bit about your background. If you want to just lead us into how did you get connected into the RV park and campground space?
Crazy enough, I actually never had been on a campground. Like no, really, like when we were younger, we would camping. My father was actually an infantryman, so we would like take backpacks and hike into the woods. It was never on a
Nice.
campground. So it was going into the campground space was brand new to me. I had built a portfolio of single family homes, long-term rentals and short-term rentals, and then actually pivoted into building a luxury micro resort in Scottsdale. And so built that out kind of, was closing the finishing touches on it, getting it ready to go out into the public. And it was just kind of a weird pivot of, my husband decided to leave his W-2 at that point. So he left his job and kind of turned around and was like, how do we expand our portfolio in the next 60 days? And so going into that, we kind of looked at different cash flowing assets, and RV parks kind of fell in our lap. And so when we started really underwriting them and doing the due diligence on it, we just realized that this was an entire asset class that we had never looked at before. And it has so much potential. And it really kind of was like the storage units of the 90s, where they kind of snuck up on the scene and then all of a sudden everybody took notice. And so it was one of those situations where I was like, I really kind of want to learn more about this. And as we started diving in, I just fell more and more in love with the asset class.
Was there somebody or a company or something that you stumbled on that gave you the idea to start looking at RV parks and campgrounds?
Actually, the crazy thing is not really. What happened is we started getting into creative financing. So we were really working with like learning how. So we were watching like Pace Morby and all these other people and trying to learn how to do this creatively. We started really looking at mobile home parks. And so when we really reached out to the broker to get our first packet of information on a mobile home park, she sent us this email, and at the very bottom, it had like a two-liner about an RV park. And so it was kind of like what is this? And as we started diving into it, we were like, what is this? Like, this is what we should be really looking at. And so it kind of was a fluke at the bottom of an email, which kind of changed the whole trajectory of our investment portfolio.
Love it. And
I was going to say, Matt, this sounds strikingly similar to your story here.
Yeah, I was going to say, Mychele, we've never met before. We've connected on social media and through comments and stuff, established that kind of have a similar entrance into the industry and similar experiences, which I think is super cool. And I mean, I totally stumbled into campgrounds via first looking at mobile home parks as well. So yeah, it's too funny. I love it. You mentioned your father was an infantryman and that you camped on public land, I assume. Was that like BLM land or state parks, national parks?
Well, we actually live in Colorado. And so
Sure.
way back when we used to do that, I mean, I was like, in like between 5 and 15. I don't really know if it was BLM land or if we were just hiking and just landing somewhere. So
Love it. That's awesome. And I think that's like, it's such an interesting kind of concept. There's such a spectrum of what is outdoor hospitality. And that's something that really struck me as the first campground I purchased is just total wilderness, wild country, wildlife. And then you go to more kind of suburban RV parks, which
Yeah.
are still great, still serve a purpose, but it just shows you that every campground is unique. Every RV park is unique. They all have a different flavor, a different business model. So I love to hear these stories. You've now purchased 5 parks, is it?
We actually own 4 fully, and our 5th park we don't close till March because of the location. We didn't want to hold it during the off season.
Okay, cool.
So
Nice. And you got into your first park a little over a year ago?
it was actually 14 months ago. Yeah, we closed on it December
Amazing.
2nd. And that one was in Branson,
Amazing.
Missouri. So that was our first park ever, and it was a doozy of a park. But I'm thankful that we learned all the lessons that we did in it, because I think any other park after that seems like a walk in the park.
Yeah. So I take it by the timeline and doubling and tripling down on your business venture and model here. I take it there has been no second guessing the decision to get into the RV park business. Is that fair?
No, you know what? There really has not been a second guess. There was a small moment when we first drove into the first park where I was like, absolutely not, we're going home. Um, and that was interesting because it really was like we drove in the first time and I was like, nope, not happening. It really did look more like an abandoned salvage yard than anything when we got there. And it was terrifying. Like, we found out we had a resident drug dealer, we had some not so great guests that were there living long term. They had built out like entire areas for them to live in. They had extra trailers. One guy had an entire camper full of nothing but these weird these Pantagonian cavas, which are look like a weird cross between a rabbit and a kangaroo. He was breeding
Oh my
Wow.
them in a
goodness.
camper next to his camper. Like,
Yikes.
Wow.
like anything that you can think of, we probably had on this first park. Like, it was just such a crazy place that I like could not even like even now when I look back at it, I'm like, can't even believe we bought it. Like, it would never fit into our buy box during this day now.
Too funny. Yeah, I've definitely had the same thought. So 4 parks in the portfolio, 5th coming soon. Tell us a little bit about the portfolio, if you don't mind.
Yeah, the portfolio is actually pretty diverse. We have 3 parks in Missouri right now. So, and each one of those parks is different. We have our Branson Park, which had completely repositioned and rebranded. So it went from being a family friendly park to being a crazy scrapyard to back to being a family friendly park. Had to completely empty it out, start from scratch, reposition,
Wow.
rebrand, redo everything on it. Great lessons that we learned during that. Our second park, so streamlined. That one was probably the easiest park we ever bought. We bought it 100% seller financed. The manager or the owner, the previous owner, actually came on as our manager, and she still runs the park today.
Oh
She
wow.
increased our profits by 15%, and she's so great at what she does that we like touch base once a week, and we don't really have to do a lot at all. But it is a straightforward park with a pool, laundry room, and it's off of Route 66. Our third park in Missouri is actually on the Lake of the Ozarks, and it is a large value add park with a restaurant and bar on it and a full marina. And we're expanding that one by about 200 pads right now. Um,
Wow.
then our park in Virginia is a full resort park with water slides, full arcade, full activities calendar, fishing pond, golf cart rentals. It's on 94 acres, and we're expanding that into glamping. And then our 5th park that we're actually under contract with is actually the largest park in Alaska.
Incredible.
Wow. I
Yeah.
was gonna say,
Wow.
I thought I saw that on social media and silently was like, man, wouldn't that be just such an incredible location, not only to visit and go manage, but just for aspirational RVers and people who obviously all of us love to travel to take that journey. Mychele, my question is, I've got more of that marketing and boots on the ground operational background. As you laid out the portfolio, there seems to be a bit of a focus in Missouri, but obviously you guys have now started branching out and obviously looking at other deals. Is there a locational plan with how you're looking at buying these things and maybe how you're beginning to position the brand and the portfolio moving forward?
Actually, there isn't. I mean, we really look at all parks in all areas and just kind of look at the potential of the specific park and what we can
Right.
do with that particular park. So we're not totally focused in one area or another. Missouri just kind of happened to come together um, just because it
Look
worked
at
out.
look at what deals were there, right?
Yeah, it
Yeah.
kind of worked out. And these were great parks with great potentials. I mean, the first couple of parks we did, one in a great tourist town. I mean, Branson gets like 10 million visitors a year. A great tourist town. We're half a mile from the country strip. We're probably one of the more level parks that you can find. It was our first one. We didn't know what we were really going into. Definitely, though, we made a really good pick on what it was. Our second park off of Route 66, it just made sense to us. It was a straightforward park, completely streamlined. It was in a popular area where people drive down constantly. You literally take a right off of Route 66 into my park. Like it's such an easy one that we're constantly booked. Um, so that made that one a really easy purchase. Lake of the Ozarks was just kind of a unique property. And we weren't completely positive we were going to go into it more because of the bar and restaurant. Like that one kind of freaked us out a little bit. My husband has an extensive background in uh, wine, beer, and spirits. He worked for a
Oh, cool.
large distributor company, and he actually worked on franchises. And
Oh,
so,
wow.
knowing what he knew about restaurants, we weren't sure we wanted to dabble in them. Um, so that had actually turned us off of a lot of parks that we could have acquired over the last year because we were just too afraid of them. The crazy thing is that I really kind of believe in timing. And we went and looked at that park. We left that park and went because we actually invited a bunch of friends to come camp with us on our Branson park. We left the Lake of the Ozarks park from our first initial visit. We drove to Branson. We're hanging out with our friends, and one of our good friends, he actually runs franchises for a large restaurant chain, and that's all he's done his entire life. And so he actually turned around and he goes, "Hey, so I need to get out of my W-2 in the next 2 years. I want to work with you guys. How do we do this?" And I was like, "Funny you should say that. I actually have an opportunity that I'm too afraid to go into because I don't have your expertise. But if you want to do this, let's do this." So that actually kind of opened up a whole new set of doors that we weren't sure we were going to go down.
I think that's a really great point. Speaking to sort of the team and getting the right people in place for the right positions and opportunities. With that, can you talk us through a little bit about that first deal, especially coming in and being man, we don't even know if we're going to have a GM or if all my staff's going to leave when you come in. What gave you the confidence and the ability to start to put this team together to say, you know what, even though this is a new asset class, obviously you guys had some sort of real estate and business experience already, but what gave you the confidence to say, I'm going to figure this out, build my team, be boots on the ground and live at the property if I have to? Um, Talk us through sort of the early days of that process and then up to this point as you guys have assembled the team today.
Well, I can definitely tell you that when we first started, I don't know if we had a lot of confidence. I'm just stubborn. And so we really did. We moved into the park for a few months. Like we were fully in the park for 3 months. We didn't have a GM. There really wasn't staff. The park was being run by the old park owner's cousin, and she didn't even answer the
Wow.
phone. Like that's like she wouldn't answer the phone. She barely spoke any English. It was kind of crazy. Even the booking system, like their booking system was for a hotel, so it wasn't really suited for what they were doing. And the way that they kept their records, like one of the bookings, one of the reservations was under Jackie. Ask her name when she gets here.
Oh my goodness.
And I was like, Jackie's never coming. It's just not going to happen.
Too funny.
So
Too funny. Were you in an RV, or what did you live in when you were there?
we bought a park model.
Oh, cool.
We bought a park model from Vacavia. We actually met them at COE 2 weeks before we closed on the park. They had one park model left that they had not sold. And we went up to him and I literally was like, hey, will you sell that to me? And he was like, you know what? We don't want to transfer it back. And I was like, if you give it to me on seller finance, I'll take it right now. And so they
Love it.
delivered it that night.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's
Again,
So,
awesome.
another great opportunity. Speaking of timing, right? Sometimes it's just right place, right time, right opportunity.
yeah. And they moved it in and leveled it. It's still there. We're actually moving it up to our Lake of the Ozarks one currently because we're going to start renting it out there. But we moved in and we lived on that park for 3 full months. Like we built out all the systems. We learned everything. It was a crash course in RV park management. We had no idea if we were going to be able to hire a GM. We didn't know where to find a GM. We didn't know any of that. So our first park, we actually went in with a third party manager. Like we hired one in. We have since parted ways with them. So
Yeah, we hear that. Hear that a lot. I think it's such a tough business. I mean, there's some good third party managers. Don't get me wrong, um, but it's just such a hands on. You know, every RV park and campground is unique. All the customers are unique, and I just struggle with the idea of bringing on somebody and paying them a percentage of the gross and having them truly care. And again, I think there's a lot of people out there that are happy with their third party managers, so it's not a blanket statement, but
yeah. I think
it's
if you
it's
find
a
the right one that works for you and if you know exactly what you want out of the park ownership, then it's okay. Um, One of our biggest concerns was that it was our first time in. We didn't really know what we were doing. We brought in a third party manager. Um, it didn't work out well for us. There was a lot of transparency issues that we didn't like. And thankfully, because when we went into it, I'm so crazy about the way that we run things, we kind of kept back doors into all of our systems and found some things that we didn't find to be
oh no,
the way that we
yeah,
wanted them to be or the way that they were running them. They brought in the first set of managers that didn't quite work out and they kind of left in the middle of the night. Due to whatever, I don't even totally know what happened with that. Um, According to them, it had something to do with the marital spat, but according to the actual management, it had something to do with the third party management. I don't know. Anyway, we
wow,
brought in another person and actually loved her. One of my biggest issues was that we were never in our contract, we were never allowed to really talk to our managers, which I thought was bizarre, especially since we were on the
wow,
all the time. But we started getting to know our manager and we actually really loved her. And so one of our biggest issues and why we stayed so long was that we liked her and we weren't allowed to keep her. And so
wow,
since everything happened, one of the things that they were actually bought out by another company. So I hope whatever is going on now, they'll figure it out. I have
yeah.
nothing but best intentions for them. But because of that, we ended up being able to break our contract and she was able to break her contract. And now she works for us and now is becoming one of our regional managers.
Oh, that's incredible.
Wow, that's a great story.
Yeah,
Yeah. So we love her.
that's
She's a
something
real,
I've learned in this business is that it's a people business, and that's on the customer side. It's on the staff side. You know, I think a lot of people come in and think of them as commercial real estate investments, campgrounds and RV parks. I mean, and to some degree they are, but it's a hospitality business. You got to consistently invite people back, give them a
yes.
reason to come back, make them happy.
Yeah, and
So,
you've got to be constantly looking for those reviews. I think one of the biggest things that I have found, and I actually just posted about this in a private investor group that I'm a part of, was the fact that everybody thinks that this is such a turnkey business, and it's not. It is not a completely turnkey passive investment. It is like you need to be in it. You need to know what you're doing. You need to know your systems. Like it is not a here, I'm going to buy it and then I'm going to turn it over to a management company and I'm going to walk away and everything's going to be fine. So
yeah, well
that I
said.
think is
Well,
probably one of the biggest myths that I've come across in the last year.
makes a lot of sense. I'm
So
curious to hear from you. You know, you've been very hands-on. You've done all the dirty jobs. You've built up all the systems, and you're very familiar with what goes into running an RV park and campground now. What have been some of the biggest challenges? You know, there's a lot of people out there that want to buy a park or a couple parks, and now you're at the point where you're starting to build some scale, and that's incredible, you know, and to do that in 10 years, let alone one. So what have been the biggest growing pains? What have been the biggest challenges along the way?
Definitely management, finding the right people to place in your teams, people that you trust, people that you can turn your back on if you need to, just to like walk away for a minute. Knowing all of your systems and how they work so that when you have a manager who calls you, or at least having the people in place who understand them so that if something goes wrong, they know exactly who to call. Knowing how to train your management has been a big one. Putting the right people in the right places is huge. Building that vision for your team, I think, is another big one because if they're sold on the vision that you have, they're going to be on board. And I love that. Like, we just hired a national director, and the reason why she wanted to join us was because she believed in our vision so much. And I love that I get to bring people along the journey, but having that understanding and knowing what your goal is huge. So we know that we want so many parks, but we don't want them to be corporate type. We want them to continue feeling like mom and pop. We want them to, you know, each have their individuality. We want everybody to feel comfortable with where they're at. We want customer service to be one of the first things that people talk about when they come into our parks is, you know, your staff is amazing. That's all I want to know. I want to know my staff is amazing and that everything's clean and that you're comfortable and happy. Those are big deals, and putting the right people in place for that is a big one for me. I've heard people across the board who have said things like, "Oh, you know, we hired our managers and we pay them like, you know, I don't know, $300 a month, and they get a free hookup." And I'm like, "How's your management doing? Like, are they like good? Do they have people?" You know, because it makes a difference. So we pay a pretty good amount for them to be there because we want
Yeah.
them to be fully on board. And this is a job for them. Like they need, and they're there 24/7. Something breaks in the middle of the night, they're on call. And, you know, I'm a big believer on paying for what we have. And I believe that you do get what you pay for. So I really want my managers to feel like they're taken care of too.
And Mychele, can you talk a little bit about, you know, you alluded to hiring a regional manager, now hiring, you know, national director. How have you, apart from obviously GMs at probably each of the locations now, how have you started to really structure the staff and kind of how many people do you have under the umbrella and sort of, you know, where do you expect to kind of grow from here?
So under our umbrella, we have me, then we have our chief operating officer. Then from there, we have our CFO. We have a complete operations, and she also does fractional, our complete, like all of our TC work, transactions, all of that paperwork. We have somebody who does that full time, and she does operationals, fractional operations too. Then underneath her, we actually have our national campground director who now handles the regionals, and the regionals handle the management. And so that's kind of how we structured everything. Then each park has their own general manager. Depending on the
Mm-hmm.
size of the park, those each have assistant managers or management in each of the areas. Like we have a park that has, during full season, will run like 60 employees. So with that, we have like a general manager for a restaurant, and then we have our kitchen and front end bar manager. Then from there, they branch out into staff like waitresses, cooking staff, schedulers, things like that. We're actually adding a convenience store on that one. So now we're going to add in that. So that'll be
Wow.
structured
Wow.
itself. So we have like a whole corporate structure that we're building out, and we're building them as we need them or as we see our expansions happening. So we know that we're buying 5 more parks this year. So we knew we needed a national director and we needed to start placing regionals to handle the expansion.
Incredible.
Love it. I was going to say, I know that life well. My first property was at Jellystone Park, and we had, you know, 70 seasonal full-time employees, and obviously I was management at that property, and you know, I can empathize really deeply with your management team and the amount of really hard work and sweat equity that gets put into that thing. It's a labor of love, and it's something that is It's incredible to look back on. I think fondly of my time there, but man, are you you're burnt out a little bit by the time the end of the season comes. It's a lot of work. So
It is a
what an
ton.
incredible business that is.
Yeah, it's a ton of work. I think that since we bought our first park, I actually just said this to somebody that in the last 13 months, we've just taken our first actual vacation. And it was like 3 days at our beach house where we were like, don't call us, just don't. But it was the first time that we felt comfortable enough to walk
I was going to
away.
say, isn't it great to get to that point though, where you feel like you've got the team in place and the portfolio at a good point where you can actually start to take time like that?
Yeah. And that's been, I think a lot of it's been something we've wanted to do. Like we really, really have enjoyed being in all the parks. We've personally been to every park. We've personally stayed in every park. We've personally like met with everybody on the team. Like we have all of that. But it was really kind of great to go to our beach house and like just not answer the phone. But not even that, but to not have phone calls.
That's
Right.
awesome.
Like that was kind of amazing. Like nobody called us for the 3 days. And like everything ran smoothly. And like when we were coming home, one of the things that my husband said was, oh my gosh, we didn't have to like, nobody called at all. And it was like the first time I think we realized how much we had built up this last year.
Incredible.
That's really incredible work. Super impressive.
So
You mentioned in passing that you're going to buy 5 more parks this year. I love the confidence, putting the vision out there. Do you have any particular markets or regions that you're either super bullish on or even bearish on? Is there anything that doesn't fit for your portfolio? I know a lot of people. Alex and I are in the Northeast. A lot of people stay away from the Northeast for a lot of different reasons. Do you have any kind of criteria like that?
Um, well, no, not really. I think one of the biggest things is that we're staying away from places like California due to insurance issues, tenancy laws, things like that. Like those are things that we don't really want to play with. Um, Illinois, we tend to stay away from only because we used to own property in Illinois. We're not big on their tenancy laws either. Other
Yeah,
than that, we're one of the few that actually we're not just below the Sun Belt. That seems to be one of the biggest criteria for a lot of teams is they all want
sure.
to stay below the Sun Belt. And I'm like, there's so many great opportunities that are north of that. And I think people tend to forget that south of the Sun Belt is seasonal too. During the summer season, everybody goes north.
Yeah,
And I think they forget that yeah, it's great during those winter months, but the truth is that you have the same problem during the summer. Everything empties out and everybody goes north. And so we've never really kind of stuck to that. We kind of go all over, which is how Alaska happened. And actually, Alaska originally was a park that my husband was like, I don't want to go into that because it's too seasonal. And I was like, oh my gosh, I want the Alaska park. so,
love it.
so when we started really diving into it, are there going to be new challenges? Absolutely. Is there challenges in everything? I mean, during this last freeze, I think 3 of our parks had pipes burst, but it's part of the cost of playing the game, I feel like. You can only
Hmm.
do
Yeah,
so much. And then at that point, you've just got to make sure that you've got money there ready for when those things happen. So,
yeah,
um, we are not staying out of every or any certain particular market except for the 2 that I mentioned. And they're
yeah.
specifically more for insurance reasons and tenancy laws.
Interesting. You have to get ready for some grizzly bears.
I know. I'm so excited. There's actually a place not far from where the park is where I heard that the grizzly bears go to feed in the spring, so you can go and watch them.
Wow.
Oh
Like
my
you can
goodness.
like
I
take
can
a
deal with black bears, but grizzly bears, that's different.
Oh, I'm so excited. I'm excited that like my sellers are wonderful people, but they told us they were like, come out this summer, let's take you squid fishing. Like I want to learn how to squid fish. They made us dinner one night. It was like fresh halibut, fresh salmon, and fresh calamari that they had personally caught.
Amazing.
Wow.
It was
That's really speaks to like the outdoor adventure traveler and that person who wants to go and camp and be in the wilderness. Very similar type of experience, I think, Matt, to what we've looked at some of your deals, and
Yeah,
that's a
definitely.
whole other type of traveler compared to as we've alluded to, the luxury RV park south of the Sun Belt that caters to retirees. Those are two very, very different customer bases and operations, but still both considered great camping. So it
Yeah.
kind of just depends on what type of deal and what type of park caters to who. So really interesting that you haven't forgotten about those folks when it comes to putting the deal together and including them as a part of the portfolio.
Yeah, no, I'm super excited about it. I think one of the biggest surprises a lot of my longtime friends have come to terms with is the fact that I'm not as bougie as everybody thinks I am. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm very but like I think that's been one of the funnest things is they're just like, I cannot believe that you're in RV parks. Like out of all of the things in the world that I would have thought that you would have done, that would have never been it. And they're like, and you're like just in it all the time. And I'm like, oh, give me sweatpants and like a shovel. I'm ready to go.
I think it's awesome to hear because I truly believe it's one of those things where you have to really love it and you have to be so committed. Like I see some groups that, they kind of dabble, they dip their toe in, and I think, there's going to be maybe a rude awakening for some of these groups that, it's not a transactional business. It is, mom and
Yeah.
pop hospitality is in a lot of times in a lot of ways is the best thing for the business. So I love that you said earlier that you're not trying to get away from that mom and pop hospitality and that feel and that service because that's what the customers want. There's young, more modern customers, there's baby boomers, everybody in between wants to feel like they're at a mom and pop campground or RV park where the person actually genuinely cares how their experience is. So I think that's really awesome. We're
I think it's
certainly.
important. I think,
Oh yeah,
I mean, when we talk to our sellers, I think that is probably one of the biggest things is when you look at all the RV campgrounds, I think 90% of them are owned by mom and pops. A lot of them are baby boomers who are transitioning out and they've got children that don't necessarily want to take it over. That's not never been their dream. They've watched mom and dad work at it 100% of the time their entire lives, and that's
yeah,
not a life that they want. And so when they transition out, they've never really thought about retirement. They've never thought about how do I get out of this, and they've just kept running it for all these years. And one of our biggest things when we go into sellers is just, we don't want to change your legacy. We want to keep your legacy going. We want to keep it as true to what it is as we possibly can. We're just going to try to upgrade it and streamline it as much as we can. And that's kind of all we really want to do. Like, if we
yeah.
can keep your staff in place, we want to do a soft landing. We just want to take over your staff. We don't really want anybody to lose their job if they don't need to. And that has been one of our biggest selling points and with our sellers is, we don't want to change the wheel that you already perfected. We just want to kind of streamline it a little better and make it more conducive to the newer groups of people coming in.
Love that.
And
So
Mychele, is that something that you would say in addition to the advice you just mentioned? What other kinds of advice would you give folks if they're trying to invest in the space for the first time, buy their first park? As we start to wrap up, what would be something that you would say? Make sure you don't forget about this. This is something that's really been key as you guys have gone through and begun to learn lessons with the first few properties you purchased.
I'm definitely going to say that is probably one of the biggest lessons is that, people do want to be in mom and pops. Um, Keeping everything where it's supposed to be, hospitality is a big deal. Knowing your clientele, knowing who you're catering to is another big one. Know your numbers. That's a big one.
That's a good one.
Understanding how to underwrite a park is a really big deal, and knowing what you have to have going in. Understand that when you go in, you may have to clear it out and start all over. And if you're doing that, you're going to have to know that you're going to have the money to hold that property while you reposition the property. I think that was something that I'd found a lot of people didn't think about when they first went into their first park. One of the other things that I can say is if you have the opportunity to meet with a real campground owner who works on a park, please do ask questions. It is not as streamlined as you think it is. And you may actually go into it and find out that you're in over your head. I mean, I find these new investors are looking at parks that are like $10 million, $5 million, whatever. And they've got all these multiple businesses in it. And they're looking at the bottom line and they're not looking at what they're actually walking into. And it is multiple businesses compounded on each other that you have to learn all the systems for. And they walk in, they're not prepared with CapEx because they don't really know their numbers. All they know is, oh my gosh, this thing cash flows $1 million a year. And they're not understanding the work and the staff that goes behind that and the money that you have to put out to ensure that it all continues to run. And so going into that has probably been one of the biggest things that I've learned, especially since I work with a lot of new investors. They come in with these whole ideas of, I'm going to take over this $10 million park. And I'm like, whoa, hold your horses. Let's
Yeah.
actually break down what that means. And then like showing them like, okay, now you need to know how this works. You need to know what this is. You need to have maintenance costs for this. You need to know like you're going to lose some staff. You're going to lose some people. You're going to have to replace these people. Can you run this? This is not a let's buy the park, put a manager there that I barely know and turn your back and walk away situation. You need to understand what you're walking into. And so that I think we've actually purchased 2 parks at a discounted price from new investors who walked in, bid off way more than they could chew, and then almost went
Wow.
bankrupt and had to sell out. And so,
Yeah, I think that's a really good.
see,
Yeah, I think that's a really good point about sort of the new money coming into the industry. And I would, I'm sure one of the arguments from you would be as well, look, if you're looking for this to be a passive investment, then go participate in a fund like what you guys have at Bison Peak Ventures, and become that LP who does not have to have operational control or have to worry about those late night phone calls or putting the right staff in place, and that's a way to still get involved in the industry, but know that that's the type of deal that would fit better for you. So Mychele, I know we touched on as well the 5-part goal for this upcoming year of where you guys want to get to. Just talk us through a little bit about what the goals in your head looks like, and then how people can get in contact with you if they do want to participate in the fund or just connect with you and learn more about what you guys do and what you offer.
well, I have some really big goals actually. So, ultimately, we want to buy, I think we want to get to about 20 parks in the next 5 years, which is doable. We want to build out our fund. We want to give passive investors a really good way to get included into the space without actually having to put boots on the ground. I actually want to be able to build out workshops to help other people and new investors understand the asset class of what they're going into, because it is so intricate and it's a lot more. I mean, you can go anywhere from like a straightforward 27 pad park to a full on resort park that like does $250,000 in passes, in day passes, which, is our Virginia park. I mean, there's so
Incredible.
many in betweens that it's not one way fits all. Plus, there's so many different ways that you can finance them. I mean, we've done everything from hybrids to bringing in private money to building a fund to seller financing. None of our deals look the same. It all depends on making sure that our seller is in a win situation, that we're in a win situation, and that everybody is getting something good out of the deal so that we're all comfortable moving forward. I also want, to be able to employ some great people who wouldn't have other chances in other places. I love my employees and where they come from. I love that they love to be wandering around the country. Having multiple parks keeps that available to all of them. They can literally just change parks and not have to lose a job. I want some of our parks, depending on location, will have more of an affordable housing element to them, where it's better for them to stay in certain parts of our park, which makes it a little more affordable for them to live in a safe space. But it also keeps, the community diverse and active. And that's in certain places. Some places it doesn't work. And then ultimately, this has to do with my portfolio in general. My ultimate goal is, I don't want to get emotional. I had a son who passed away from a heart condition years ago. Sorry, I'm gonna get emotional.
No problem.
And one of my biggest goals is when a family goes through a crisis like that, the medical bills and the conflict and the stress of it all can almost break a family. And so I want to be able to build grants for families who have sick children with heart conditions. So
Wow.
Amazing.
yeah. So
That's
it has nothing
amazing.
to do
Very
with that.
powerful
That's an
stuff.
amazing legacy for him.
Yeah. So that's kind of ultimately what our family legacy is built out to be, and that's what we want it to be. So we want to be known in the RV industry, but there's a bigger goal in the end where we really just want to help families. And this all kind of ties into the fact that campgrounds are more family atmospheres. I love having and seeing the families. I love seeing the kids play like kids. I love seeing them without screens. I love that families get together and they roast marshmallows on a campground. I like the fact that every Saturday night on all my campgrounds, we have a community bonfire night where everybody gets together in the community and you just learn new things about people that you would have never met anywhere else. And so it is really about connecting, building good relationships, building memories, and ensuring that, this legacy of campgrounds doesn't become completely corporate and doesn't become, they're like the rest of the world. It's like the last safe place.
Right.
Yeah. So well said.
So
Mychele, that's amazing. As we wrap up here, just where can people go if they want to see more of your content, get connected with you, learn more about Bison Peak Ventures? Where can folks go to connect?
absolutely. So you can find us on bisonpeakventures.com for our fund. I actually have a webpage called mychelebisson.com, and you can always find me on Instagram at Mychele Bisson, which is MyChelebisson.
Awesome. Mychele, thank you so much for being here. It's really powerful story, and we're incredibly excited to watch as you continue to build this portfolio out and really, make a big stake here in our industry. So thank you again for taking some time.
Thank you so much. It was such an honor to be asked to be on here, and I really appreciate it, you guys.
Thanks again for listening to Outdoor Hospitality Weekly. As always, you can catch the show wherever you get your podcast. Be sure to leave a 5-star review. Leave us a review or a comment if you like what we have to hear, and we'll see you next week for another great episode. Thanks, y'all.